Hello, everyone, and welcome to Something Technical. Back here again with another episode. It's a little late for us right now, but that's okay. It's a nice Sunday night, probably a week before you're going to see this, but something that had kind of come up between Keaton and I, of course, we're your hosts, and we're talking a little bit about like police and their interaction with society and how it kind of seems like crime is running rampant, and some of us don't necessarily feel safe walking out at night. Um, and so we kind of just wanted to talk about that, kind of do a little bit of discussion, and it's probably going to be a little bit shorter of an episode, which we always say that, but
It always goes longer.
it always goes longer than we anticipate, which is good. I mean, I'd rather go too long than too short. And so, Keaton, what do you think about, do everyday citizens trust police to do anything now?
I don't know. I mean, I think we still trust police to do things, but it seems like more and more things are more hands off. I don't really say that's the. I don't know if that's necessarily true in Oklahoma City, but uh, I always see stuff on the internet, which I guess you never know if it's actually increasing or if it's just you're seeing more videos on the internet. But I think this one is actually truly increasing, where it's kind of like just not going to do anything about certain petty theft, and theft in big stores, burglaries, breaking into cars, that type of stuff seems to kind of have been just ignored. And I don't know. I don't know if how true that is here, but it seems to be something that's popular in the big cities.
Yeah, and what kind of sparked, I guess I was kind of the one that initiated this topic. Somebody I know, they got in a car accident, and non life threatening or anything, non emergency, and the police wouldn't even show up. Like, they called the police, and the police wouldn't show up. They said, "Well, is anybody injured?" No. Okay, well, just have your insurances worry about it and figure it out, and don't call us. Like, okay, well, because it used to be pretty standard. Like, sometimes insurance wouldn't even accept your claim unless there was a police report done,
Mm.
like to help make sure it's valid.
No.
So if they're not showing up anymore, I don't know how that insurance stuff works, but I guess they do fight it out. And then the other thing I saw was about, I think his name's Andy Go or Andy No, sorry,
This
NGO.
is the
He's like
Portland
the
guy.
journalist, yeah. And he would always post videos, and he got like assaulted. I think it was back in 2019 or 2020. Like,
Mm.
people were like, he was like just videotaping, and I guess it was Antifa or somebody of that sorts, just like started like attacking him and throwing stuff on him. And there's police around, and they're kind of just watching, like, whatever. And so it kind of sparked this, like, let's talk about this, because like that's not right. Like, you see somebody getting assaulted, just because there's a large number of people, it doesn't mean you shouldn't act.
Yeah.
So it like you said, does seem like they're being way hands off now on everything.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and you always could see this like anecdotal incidents of like people being harassed on subways, and well, why does that happen? Well, because nothing's going to happen to them. So why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't crazy people be obnoxious or uh, I guess criminals uh, commit petty crime whenever there's nothing is going to happen to them?
Yeah, there's like no repercussions. So, okay, well, if me and my buddies beat up this guy, he might even have a good description of us or even know us, but the police going to show up to my house and arrest me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or I mean,
Uh,
like the I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy on the subway who um, ended up killing the person who was harassing people on the subway. Um, he's like a Marine, and
oh, we like
uh,
put him in a chokehold or whatever. The
yeah,
homeless
and he
guy was
died. Yeah,
was harassing people. Yeah, I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
yeah. Well, that apparently that homeless guy had been like arrested like 50 plus times, just catch police. Like it was just like little things. Like, uh, and I mean, come on, like that's not making your city any safer. So what is the point of that?
Why would you arrest him 50 times if nothing's gonna happen? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I don't think he deserved to die. I mean, I don't know what his
No, no,
crimes
no,
were,
no.
but it doesn't say. I mean, if he had, deserved to die, I think he probably been put on trial. But like,
It would have been a lot safer if he wasn't if he was in receiving mental health. I mean, this is like that one episode we talked a lot about like the decrease in mental institutions. Like if it had been institutionalized, that would have been much better for him and for others.
Yeah, if he had some sort of like mental health assistance or help, and I'm assuming that guy had been homeless for a while. I don't think you just commit 50 petty crimes, harassing people,
I
or
might be off on the numbers. It's been a long time, but directionally, it was a lot of crime.
um, but obviously, like whatever punishment, I guess you would say, whatever repercussions that individual received, obviously they weren't working or deterring at all.
Yeah.
Which we could also probably get into, like a lot of these criminals that are in jail, our jails are overrun already. So can we really handle more people in jail? I would generally say, like, most people are dissatisfied with the police. And granted, they have a very difficult job. I mean, but it seems like all they're enforcing now are traffic violations.
Yeah.
And all I see are cops on, like, nobody patrols really anymore. It all has to do with just writing a speeding ticket, getting the $250 and calling it good, and waiting for the next person. But they have, like, military surplus riot control vehicles, but do we even use them? I don't know.
Yeah. No.
So if we're trusting police less, I guess, does that mean we end up with more crime? Well, I don't trust the police, so more crime's going to occur. I can get away with it. And maybe it's not even the police. Some of us are saying, I say some of us, we're also saying that the legislator has failed us with putting in steep repercussions when it comes to crime, like petty crime. Well, I think you mentioned California when offline about they have just rampant crime in San Francisco, I guess.
Yeah, like petty crime, like shoplifting, breaking. I always see people talking about San Francisco. Like you can't really have a car there without it getting broken into within X amount of time being there. And I mean that doesn't happen in other societies, but that's what happens whenever you don't prosecute petty crime. And then when you don't prosecute petty crime, the petty criminals are typically the ones that end up committing the more heinous crimes eventually. So I mean, there's like the whole political philosophy side of should you be tougher on crime, less tough on crime? It's unfair if we're so tough on crime, the prisons are overrun, versus we need more. It's like a huge debate, and I never see anyone ever on the side of really tough on crime, but also like prison reform, as in like make the prisons much nicer and better at rehabilitating people to integrate into society if they do commit crimes that are not worthy of a life in prison. It's either oh, you are all the way on complete prison/criminal reform where you just turn a blind eye to every single little crime, or you're on the side of like, oh, we got to throw people in prison for life and who cares about what the prison's like. Prisoners are prisoners. Like where's
They
the
made their
where's the
choice.
middle ground? Yeah, where's the middle ground? Like, yes, be really tough on crime, but also not everyone needs to be in prison for life. And for those that aren't there for life, let's get them a much better system. That I mean, I'm not a fully type of person that thinks you can just rehabilitate everyone and anyone, but why are we even? Why are we not even really trying?
Yeah, I don't really know what all goes on in prison, but
I guess it's very dramatic. Our Hollywood version of it is very dramatized, I'm guessing, but also it's got to be directionally right. Surely, it's not like I feel like there's not like it's not like it's not coming from any sort of resource.
well, I think when it comes to integrating into society, we see felony on somebody's background check. like if you're trying to hire somebody, and maybe there should be some type of different tiered system of like, I mean, we already have it, I guess, misdemeanor and felony, but maybe even break it down even more of like, this is a business versus murder, and so when you're going to hire somebody, because it's tough if you're a felon to one, find a job, two, keep it.
Yeah, well, to be fair, that's kind of a fair. If I'm hiring, I'm not going to hire an ex-con most likely. That's just
if you have a choice between two candidates, then they're exact
two
same.
even candidates, and they're exact. Of course, I'm not going to. But what if we taught, a lot better of skills like computer science or something to prisoners, and then we kind of left them with the abilities to create wealth on their own. I mean, maybe I'm being too phantasmic minded here, utopian minded here, but that seems almost a more efficient path than go work your job
mowing
lawns and doing the worst jobs for the rest of your life. Seems like another just great way to cause someone to commit more crimes. I mean, there's some like weird economics data that I'm gonna get this wrong, so maybe I'm gonna. I don't remember exactly how to say it, but essentially, the emergence of like a sort of capitalist structure and society and economic system sort of gave more conqueror / criminal types, aggressive types, a sort of outlet, a good outlet of conquering in a way through business. And it was very good for society, for those types of individuals to, instead of terrorizing other people, to be using that energy for sort of creation of wealth and goods for society. So I don't know. It seems like that could be an overlooked thing. It's not like I know anything that goes on in, prison reforms and others nonprofits that like specialize in these type of things, but I wonder if that's something they could be overlooking that's a little bit out of the box.
Well, and it could be, okay, did you turn to crime? And this goes into a little bit of like what I was saying earlier, like the different tiers, like, somebody's background. Did you turn to crime because you were in a bad situation? Like you were, you owed a bunch of money to some, to loans, and you didn't really see a way out, or you're trying to feed your family, like if you had some type of little bit of wealth or some type of business generation that would generate money, like, okay, that would avoid your situation. So like you were just economically distressed versus, okay, you're actually insane and you commit crime and murder people and are sociopath and psychopath. Like those are obviously very different situations. So if you like your solution of like generating business, obviously helps one tier of that. The second tier would be helped by, some type of mental health awareness or mental health reform. And we don't really know what, like, mental health seems to have like taken quite a risen here in the United States. I guess world maybe, but United States
seems way worse than all the other places.
All the other places, yeah. And is it, what's causing this chemical imbalance in a lot of people's heads or in their maybe it's not, you're not crazy, but your kid ends up being crazy, like something went on during the pregnancy or infant stages, like what's going on. So I'm not an expert on any of that stuff. I don't even really have that many theories or any valid theories.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's as like deterministic as like, oh, you
drink too much tap water.
Yeah, then therefore you're gonna have schizophrenia. No, I think a lot of it is it's super complex, and I think a lot of it is drugs. It seems like America has one of the worst drug problems of any other country, and we just kind of let it run its course for some reason.
Well, we had the war on drugs, and obviously that ended all of it. So
we lost the war on drugs.
Yeah, it's crazy. We had the war on drugs, and now the entire country is flooded with drugs from, internally and
Mexico
importing. Mexico importing. Well, that's one of the problems with San Francisco, isn't it? Didn't they make drugs legal, like certain drugs?
I don't know if they made drugs legal or if they just said, "Oh, we're not going to prosecute
That's probably it.
drugs," essentially making it legal. But I don't know that 100%. But they did. I mean, people like walk around like zombies in certain parts of the place, just open air zombies all over the place. It literally looks like
The Walking
Nazi
Dead.
zombies. Yeah, The Walking Dead. That's
better. But like drugs are legal in Amsterdam, right? Like, or in the Netherlands and other European countries.
Yes,
The
but
joke we always made about with Amsterdam was like, well, I could just go up to the vending machine and get a needle out of there if I want to do heroin. Like, I don't really know what all is considered legal in both or not going to get prosecuted, but is it that we're rich?
I mean, okay, so if you just look up the in Amsterdam in the Netherlands, the use of hard drugs like cocaine and heroin and ecstasy is strictly illegal. They allow certain soft drugs such as cannabis, but it's like you can get it in coffee shops, like it's just everywhere. So I don't know. Maybe we kind of exaggerate the other countries' policies because I also thought the same thing, and seems like no, that's not the case, and
maybe it's red light district or something, and
certain areas.
But at the same time, it's not like those are gated. It's not like I can't go into a red light district if this was true. Can't go to a red light district, do some drugs, and walk out. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So it's like San Francisco in a way where it says that all these are illegal all over, but they don't really prosecute them heavily.
Okay.
But why do they not have walking zombies like we do? I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I was there was 8 years ago, so I don't really know why. But yeah, I mean, we walked around at night. There was no issue. It was 2 nights or 1 night, 2 days, 1 night. But I don't know. It's interesting. Just, and maybe this is part of our culture, I guess. Societal. So that Americans are crazy. There's a quote that I saw of like, if we don't know what we're doing, then no other country can can try to plan what we're going to do, strategize against what we're going to do because we don't even know what we're going to do. And that's the American philosophy. So
it's got to be a 100% culture thing because I mean, I don't know. It seems like America's just so. We've already talked about this, I think, a few times about how like we're just super polarizing. Like we have extreme successes and extreme failures, extreme homeless population, but extreme wealth from success, extreme drug problems while making basically the majority of the world's biomedical innovation. It's just weird how like polar the U.S. is.
Yeah, you're either super successful or like even the middle class. You know, the middle class is shrinking. But I don't know. I feel like just because I did bad in something doesn't mean I'm going to turn to drugs. I mean, maybe that's just I guess a cultural within your own like family and upbringing of, well, I did bad, so it's time to work harder, not turn to drugs and quit.
Yeah,
you know, or turn to drugs and try to work hard, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we have that huge depression problem in the U.S. and people are turning to drugs. I mean, the fentanyl overdoses is I think the leading killer in men and women at ages like, 15 to 50 or something. I mean, again, I don't have the stats pulled up in front of me, but it's certainly a leading cause of death in younger people.
So let's see. Okay, this is an interesting fact, and I don't know if these are. Let's see. This is 2023.
Oh.
So this says 14% of households in Europe have children with single parents. So about
14%.
This says approximately 14%. And the United States is like 40%.
Oh my gosh!
Nearly
really?
This is 2023, so not exactly the same years, but like even if it was half that, like we still have a little bit higher. Go ahead.
This reminds me of a topic that is very relevant for this. This is kind of diverting from what we planned, but so this single parenthood thing, the rise of single parenthood. I don't know how to explain it in the U.S. It doesn't make sense. But did you see this week that trending video from TikTok? It's like a girl. She's like about to get married, or like about to take an engagement ring, and then it's like all these little flashbacks of nightmare scenarios of being a housewife, like she's cooking and cleaning and has a crying baby. I mean, it's like stuff that, I mean, you still cook and clean if you're single, but either way, it doesn't matter. They were basically just trying to make marriage and family life look terrible. And it was supposedly like, it was all made, it was like a white girl, like look, like an American teenage girl, 20-year-old girl, basically. And apparently it was all filmed in China. You can see if they pause the screen, you'll see it's all Chinese videos in the background or buildings in the background. You see like Chinese lettering on all the shirts in the backgrounds of the scenes. And this video was amplified by all these Chinese bot accounts, and it was originally posted by Chinese bot account. And it was basically like, is this like a psyop that we caught in action that is basically like trying to, push this idea that familyhood life is terrible for women? And if so, then how many other ones are we not catching?
That's a little scary.
Yeah, it was wild. This is like 2 days ago I saw this.
You'll have to send that to me.
Yeah. I can find it real
quick. So this says, according to Pew Research, United States is 23%. Maybe the stat I saw was, it must be like 4 out of 10 children, 40% of children, which is still a ton. 23% versus an average of 14 to 15% for Europe.
Wow.
So, I mean, 7%, 8%, that's quite a few households.
Yep. That's crazy.
And so it's, but that's just a household that's, that doesn't account for the children, like I said, if a single mom is raising 4 kids versus 4 different single moms with 1 kid, I guess that would be 4 different households versus 1. So like 4 out of 10 children are raised in single parent households, which I guess is like, divorce is 50%. Not everyone has kids. So that kind of checks out a little bit in my independent, fast math. Yeah. Mental math. So that's, that probably has a lot to do with it. It has a lot to do with crime for sure.
Oh, 100%. And it's always fathers who tend to be the absent ones. So like men commit the majority of crimes. Men without fathers tend to be much more likely to commit crimes. And all that leads me to believe that I feel like we should be like just absolutely shaming men who are not involved as fathers. Like that should be like the epitome of societal shame, but we seem to not care about it at all.
Yeah, well, and that's like a long-term thing. That's not a overnight we decide, we're gonna have more single moms versus or shame.
It takes a long time to. Yeah.
But I think that is kind of trending a little bit different, and like trending in a more positive direction, because I think it's finally being noticed that like men and women's relationships are so like, what's the term? They are not, we're not bonding together correctly. We're just having pointless sex, and we don't really care about each other, and we don't care about actually getting a family and staying together. It's
all like we're more selfish now than ever before. It seems like, I know every generation says that, but like statistically, it seems pretty backed up right now.
and our attention span's a lot shorter, so like we don't pay attention. Like it's harder for us to pay attention to the like even our friends and our significant others. Of well, I got my dopamine hit of seeing my friend or my significant other. Okay, see ya. I'm gonna go do something else. So I don't know. Maybe that's completely off base, but it's.
No, I mean, you could say that's like kind of like the rise of like porn or something, and uh, also the dating market is like very skewed because it's almost all online dating. So it's like, oh, if you have even the slightest thing I don't like, well, next. It's very weird because before you were basically limited to your village. I mean, way before you were limited to your village. You had like 5 options and you went with those. Now it's like,
well, you always married your high school sweetheart, like it seems
yeah.
Like, or you moved to a new city and you only.
So rather than sort of like, adjusting to meet the person, kind of in the middle, you guys met each other's. Everyone has their quirks and issues with each other, and then you kind of adjust and meet in the middle. It seems like maybe in an online dating world, it's like, you're not perfect for me, then next. And there's not really anyone that's like where there's 0 complaints. That's crazy. I don't know where we get this weird idea.
Well, it's the perfect person is out there for you. What'd you say?
Yeah. So this is something we probably need to have Connor on for talk about at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. We've always been told like the perfect person's out there for you. You got to wait for the perfect person. Well, you wait and you wait and you wait and like, well, none of these people are perfect.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Are you perfect?
They were never intended to be perfect. Yeah. Like we all have our quirks, like you said. So I don't know. Back on topic a little bit. So we want to discuss also like murder rates. So did you have some murder rate stats of like, is it increased or is it about the same that it was, 4 or 5 years ago?
I accidentally closed the stat that I had, but I did basically remember it. That it was between 2019 and 2020, during 2019 to 2020, or between those 2 years, or that year, you had a 20% increase in the murder rate, and from 2020 to 2021, there was another 6% increase in the murder rate. And I mean, the U.S. already has pretty dang high murder rate if you compare it to other first world countries. So it's not great, and that's another sort of signal of the decline in, I guess, policing, but also just erosion of societal trust.
Yeah, so I actually have the stat up, I think. Let's see, no, that's not the same one that you had. This says the national average went from 5 to 6.4% from 2019 to 2020.
From like 5 per 100,000 to 6.4 per 100,000.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's 25 murders per 100,000 is this graph.
Whoa, that seems way higher than I thought. Is that like that's got to be in like a certain city, big city?
It's no, that's national. Now, if you have a 250,000 population and over, let's see. Maybe I should go to.
So cities with 250,000 or more.
Yeah, but it went from around 9.8 to 12.8, so raised 3 points, according to this one.
That's very high compared to
what the other one was saying.
This is kind of what I was gonna talk for a little bit about. Was like when you just let this crime go, you have this like decline in societal trust, and it just sort of spirals and gets worse and worse. And if you go to Europe, Vienna is the main one I always compare to. It's like feels so safe to walk around. In the evenings, at night, the subway is incredibly nice and safe, and I can't really explain why that is. It's like, why is this so much better than a big city in the U.S.? And it comes down to just like they must be tougher on crime, but also they just have this culture that's not accepting of this sort of thing. So there's like high societal trust, and when societal trust erodes, then you can end up getting the Wild West. Well, if it's completely gone, and I can just see it slowly and slowly getting worse. And you also have like massive distrust in institutions, mostly rightfully so, over the last few years. But all these things they add together, and when there's no trust, then there's no society. You can't make deals if there's no trust, even at the business level. You can't walk around the street at night if there's no trust that you're going to get home safely. And it just makes cities worse. And I will say though, I went to Boston this last week, and we talked about it on the last podcast, but like felt pretty safe. Even I felt even safer than walking around like OKC at night, which was awesome. I mean, it's one of the safer big cities. So I don't know why we can't have that sort of whatever they're doing right, whatever their culture is, and it's a very intellectual culture there. So maybe that's part of it. Whatever that is should be exported to the rest of the U.S.
Yeah, so just to give a little more background, this is from Pew Research again. 8 states saw an increase from 2019 and 2020, a 40% murder rate.
40%?
And Montana was 84% increase. South Dakota was 81. Delaware was 62. Kentucky was 61. New York was 47%. Pennsylvania was 39%. Illinois 38%. Ohio 38%. And California 36%.
Oh my gosh.
So
wow.
Those are like the large gains. But obviously Montana, they had the George Floyd stuff that happened.
That was in Montana?
I believe so. Or am I wrong?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Oh, I'm wrong then. Yeah, Minnesota.
But
sorry.
Kind of nearby, I guess.
Not really.
North.
Let's see. North. They're both more North United States. Yeah. Let's see. This says they don't really know why, but in Minnesota, the likely relation is the George Floyd murder or crime, I guess, active. The murder of George Floyd, however you want. I guess it was convicted, so murder of George Floyd. The FBI at least shows that murder wasn't the only form of violent crime that went up last year. The rate of aggravated assault rose nearly 12% during the same time period. It's far more common, but the overall violent crime rate in the United States increased by about 5%.
It's crazy.
Rape and robbery declined in 2020, though.
Okay, I don't believe the robbery part. I mean, that's very obvious. Like there was massive looting across the country.
Yeah. So that's according to them. And maybe it could be underreported. And I think you said like a lot of this crime rate is based on convictions. Like, can we really even trust these stats?
Can we trust the stats? Like, okay, if you're not prosecuting the crime, does it actually go into the crime rates? I actually don't know, and I don't think it does, because I remember something about San Francisco like reported lower crime rates a couple of years back, when obviously that was not the case. It was just the fact that they stopped prosecuting all these crimes. And so that's why I always like, if I'm looking at crime, I like to look at murder rates, because that seems to be one that you can't really game. You can't really game that very much. So that's the only one I ever really trust. Whereas like if you see robbery or theft down, I don't know if I trust those all the time.
Yeah, could it be that it's we don't know if it's what's been reported or maybe even verified, I guess.
Yeah.
But because like we see like, okay, I'm sure we've all seen the videos of like Walgreens or another big box store being looted or mass robbery, I guess you could say. Does each one of those count towards the crime rate, or is it one big one, or does it not count at all because nobody got caught, kind of thing?
Yeah.
And I say nobody got caught. It's probably just not put on the news that somebody got caught for some of that stuff, but I don't know. That's kind of the question, I guess, that we're both asking.
Mm-hmm.
Does it count when it's like that?
I don't know. I just can't trust those stats like at all.
And I did see a stat earlier that said murder in as of recent, I think it's 2020, was down from 61% solved to 56%. So more murder and then less less solved. So
Really? It
yeah,
should be getting easier and easier to solve murders with all
uh,
these advances we have. That's crazy.
and I will say something about murder rate. As I yawn, I'm sorry. When it comes to murder rate, a majority of murder is going to be drug related or gang related. Like that probably covers, and this is a ballpark. I've heard up to like 50 to 60% of all murder is either gang related or drug related.
Mhm.
So people killing themselves over drugs or territory or um, just don't like the way that somebody's dressed, because
That's crazy. Yeah.
like I mean I don't really know the gang scene
Mhm.
that much, but if you don't wear the right colors, you get killed. So um, like a lot of that stuff, like when it comes to murder, it makes up a majority of the. Do your own research, but I'm pretty sure it's like 60%.
Yeah.
Um, and as far as like stats, we saw like videos of Walgreens. I think you showed it to me. Walgreens, they just like lock every item in the entire store up, and
Yeah, it's so weird.
you
So
shop and pick out
dystopian.
your one. You shop, pick out the one that you want, and you call them on a button, I guess, and they come over and help you unlock the door, and then you get your item and you pay for it at the front desk.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very dystopian. It's very well. What kind? We're the freaking richest country in the world, and we're really like this. That's completely absurd. And I mean, I saw this like trending video where this guy was stealing something from Walmart this week, and an employee tackled him, and they're like, and the tweet was like trending because
He's gonna get sued for assault.
yeah, well, it was like, well, you guys are why are you saving these billionaires money? And it's like I actually saw another tweet from Mike Solana. I pulled it up just now. Um, Great follow on Twitter, by the way. He basically said like it's not about saving the billionaires money. It's that they'll be perfectly fine when you steal from them. It's about like we don't tolerate this antisocial behavior in our country. It when you do that, it erodes social trust, which is ends up degrading the whole society. And if we're stopping crime because so our children don't inherit a third world country. And I was like, that's that's a good point. Like that says it much better than I could have said it. It's not about saving Walmart. Walmart will be fine, but it's like we don't tolerate this. This is not the way our society is supposed to be. You don't steal from anyone.
Yeah, it's about principle and standing on principles
Mhm.
and having standards. Like, okay, my standard to be my friend is you can't be actively committing crimes. Like, have standards for your friends. You might have been best friends since elementary school, but you know, I have standards that I'm not going to let my friends just be stealing things. You're either going to stop or we're not going to be friends anymore.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it feels dirty to not care about crime. Like, okay, I saw somebody stealing. Like, oh, I'm okay with that. It's just a billionaire. Like,
Hmm.
okay, well, what else is okay to do? Billionaires next. Okay, well, they're not real people. They're billionaires. They don't care if we, assault them. Okay, well, that's not that big a deal. Okay, well, now we're gonna murder. We're gonna murder them because they're billionaires. They don't have rights because they just don't live the same lives that we do. And where does it end? I don't know. Maybe I'm going way off the rails here, but I feel like it's not that far of a step to go from I don't really care that you're stealing because they're billionaires to okay, well, they're not real people because they're billionaires.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe I'm completely
I can
crazy
see
on that.
that. I mostly think it's just like, oh, we're stealing from billionaires. Okay, it's fine. Well, and then okay, well, why don't we mug the lady in the nice coat? Like, she'll be fine. uh, and
You can
and then
afford
it's
another
like,
one. Yeah.
yeah, and okay, yeah, sure, you can afford it. Maybe I do get robbed, and I'll be perfectly fine. Um, I can cancel my cards and pay whatever amount to get a new phone. Like, that sucks, but it's not like my life is over. It's but what is that actually going? How is that actually going to affect me? Well, it's going to turn me into someone who's antisocial and doesn't want to go out in public, because I'm worried it's going to happen again, and the next time it'll be worse. Like maybe your life actually is under threat, and that type of world is not one we want to live in, and that's why police are important, and why I am very pro being hard on crime.
Yeah. Well, I think as like we advance technology, police will be freed up more. And I mean, I think it'd be a little bit better anyways if we didn't focus so much on driving
Yeah,
infractions and we focus more on like actual crime. Like, okay, you're going, I mean, if you're reckless driving, like if you're going 50 over or
yeah,
30 over, okay, that's a little different. But okay, you change lanes right after the intersection. That was unsafe. That's actually a traffic violation. Here's your ticket.
yeah,
Or, oh, you were parked, 14 inches away from the curb instead of 12. Okay, like that stuff doesn't really matter.
yeah.
Um, but as technology advances, I'm sure they're going to put up automatic radars on our highways, soon in the next several.
I mean, that exists in Italy everywhere. It's
Yeah,
like
in Europe. Yeah.
everyone knows where the speed traps are. So they speed, and then they know where it is, and they slow down. And that, I mean, to me, that seems like a fairly nice system. Like if you have the police actually, doing their job, protecting the public, and just being present, I think makes a huge difference in crime in specific areas, um, statistically. So, but why are they, spending all their time pulling me over because I pulled into the far left lane when I, took a ride out of my neighborhood? Like, completely safe. There's no car anywhere. I just pulled into the further lane, so they got pulled over in a ticket. So,
Yeah, yeah, we can go in circles on that, but
useless things.
follow the money, I guess. But do you have anything else you want to mention or go back on that, or recap, I guess you could say?
Yeah, no, not really. I'll recap I'll vote for whatever party is pro being tough on crime, but also pro like make the prisons nicer, better rehabilitation. I feel like that will benefit us a lot. And we've already talked about it in previous podcast, like 2 or 3 ago, about the mental health institutionalization, and how we should probably have better institutions to deal with that than we do now.
Yeah,
What about you?
I agree with those. If only it was a lot more simple than, if it was simple, then we probably would have already fixed it by now. But
Mm-hmm.
I think nuclear families is a big thing. We harp on that quite a bit. But having a
Oh yeah.
good family, have good culture raising up, that
Mm-hmm.
we need to be good people, not just existing, but actually doing good things and having standards for ourselves. I think it's important. And if we don't do something about that kind of stuff, our problems will probably become exponential, and we'll be a third world country for our grandchildren.
Yeah. Well, you just went to you went to the deep roots of the problem. So now I feel like I also have to join in this because I just put a band-aid on the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, the real issues is like what the culture, your family, and how we view each other, how we view ourselves, and I don't see that problem getting a lot better right now. It seems like we're becoming increasingly fragmented and less family centered than ever before. But yeah, it's really all about like, I mean, really being there in a very local community. Your family, number one, but then your close friends. You know, uh, a lot of people like a church, other groups of people that they're around, and like, looking out for each other, helping each other grow. Like that's really where everything starts. And as we become increasingly fragmented, I'm worried that crime becomes increasingly worse. Like you have two dual problems happening at the same time, where you have this social fragmentation, but also as we've talked about today, the sort of turning a blind eye to crime, and policing being like more hands off now. And it seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and I will add that it's your own responsibility to protect yourself and your family. You shouldn't always be relying on police. They are miles away when they're minutes away when seconds count. So it is your responsibility to protect yourself and your family, but it is a lot better when they are deterring crime, especially violent crime.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have anything else?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay, well, this has been Simply Technical. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See you.